You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Battista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So, if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your, stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Christine DeLozier. Surprising foods for better sex, balanced hormones, and a healthier you. Welcome in, ladies. Have a seat right now for this amazing episode. I am here with Christine DeLozier. You're going to love it. She is an acupuncturist and herbalist in private practice. Guess what? She specializes in sexual health. Woohoo! She treats men and females and all orientations and identities. She treats patients with acupuncture, and she also works with them to develop dietary habits that support their sexual goals. Because we all know that when you don't feel pretty, and you know what I mean, you definitely don't feel sexy. I am so excited to talk to you about this, Christine. She studied biology and psychology at the University of Rochester. She trained to be a research scientist. She has a master's degree in acupuncture, which is a very, very rigorous training. She has a degree in traditional Chinese medicine and counseling. She also studied Chinese dietary therapy and earned a certification as a holistic nutritional counselor. Her philosophy is rooted in evidence-based understanding of the physiological effects of food on your body while honoring the wisdom of traditional Chinese medicine. And what I love about what she's doing is she treats every patient holistically, which is amazing because we are not Oreo cookies all looking the same in the package. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm fascinated. Like, how did you start to become passionate about the connection between physiology and diet and sex?
Well, I've always been a foodie, and so I love food. I love cooking food, and I've always had this belief that, approaching health from a natural perspective is the most effective thing. So when we go with what human beings are designed, biologically to take into our bodies, we have the best sex, we have the best life, we have the best energy and everything else. And when I started specializing in sexual health in my private practice, I wanted to offer a resource to my patients to support their sexual health goals. So, when in Chinese medicine, we're always looking to treat the root of health and not just the symptoms or the branch. And when it comes to something like sexual health, you have to think about diet in order to treat the root. So that's how I became passionate about that. And I kind of brought in my training as a research person to look at all the science and what it had to say about this relationship. Because, when we think about great sex, we usually think about it as a psychological phenomenon. It's the right person, it's the right mood, the right situation. But physiologically, what's happening in our bodies is, great sex means strong signals of pleasure from our nerves, from our genitals and to our spine and to our brain. When that's happening, we feel more pleasure. We have a better time orgasming. We have better, stronger, more frequent orgasm. And when blood flow is optimal to the clitoris, to the vagina, and to the penis, if you're male, and it's when our sex hormones are balanced. All of those make up great sex. And, in my private practice, one of the biggest complaints I have from my female patients is difficulty achieving orgasm and also low libido. So when we can optimize the physiology of things, we have better sex, we have, better libido, we have better orgasms. And food, there's a whole ton of research showing just how much food affects all of these things. It affects blood flow, it affects hormonal balance, and it affects the strength and speed of those pleasure signals to and from our genitals.
This is so amazing. I'm just fascinated by this topic because for those of you who are younger, listen, because these are the things I never talked about with anyone who was older, and I just thought it would never happen to me. So I'm going to talk about menopause. Don't think it doesn't apply to you. Because I think it was so interesting. Like, I just wrote this essay about how, like, I was just so committed to, like, not being impacted by aging. I was like, I'm a unicorn. I just decided that. And then I had a ski accident and I hit like 52 or 53. And I was trying to use the old way of handling my menopausal symptoms, which were very robust and not only impacted things like hot flashes and sleep, but absolutely sex and libido and energy and all those things. And I just tried to fix it through like willpower and a lot of very old way of thinking, like, you know, like I'll just diet or I'll just exercise more or I'll just meditate my way out of it. And none of that worked. So can you sort of just explain how our diet and how food impacts that hormonal balance and then how that connects to sex and sort of then wrap into like, and so what do we do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we could be following a good diet and still not be touching on the foods that are most important for great sex. Let's talk about one of my favorite foods for great sex, leafy greens. And the reason why they're one of my favorite foods is because they benefit that whole trifecta of great sex: nerve conduction, hormonal balance, blood flow. First of all, leafy greens have been shown in research to actually reduce the stress hormone cortisol, which sabotages testosterone. And that's important for females as well. It's not just a male hormone. Testosterone is crucial for our libido. And so when we have these really stressful lives, we're expected to do so much in our lives. We're mothers, we are partners, we are employees or, business owners. And so our cortisol levels are really high, and that can, have a very strong impact on our libido by sabotaging testosterone. So leafy greens have been shown, there have been a number of studies showing that they optimize testosterone by reducing that cortisol, that stress hormone. You bring up your testosterone levels and therefore have better libido. And the second way that leafy greens impact sexuality and pleasure is through their antioxidant content.
Okay.
So one study, for example, was on women with type 2 diabetes, and that's been known to slow nerve conduction. And we have all sorts of things in our lives that can slow nerve conduction, can slow those pleasure signals to and from the genitals, which means less lubrication, less reduced clitoral sensitivity. And those women who supplemented with antioxidants, they actually measured how fast and strong those nerve impulses were, and they were stronger following antioxidant supplementation, because what those antioxidants do is they protect against damage from life, and so they reported better sexual satisfaction, better libido, and increased clitoral sensitivity. And then leafy greens are amazing for your vascular system. The cruel joke is that the clitoral arteries and the penile arteries, for that matter, are among the smallest in the body. So long before you get plaque accumulation that you're going to notice in other parts of the body, you will notice it sexually. So those, they're so small that they get blocked first. So leafy greens, they benefit the vascular system in a number of ways in those clitoral arteries. First of all, they have naturally occurring nitrates, which dilate blood vessels. They promote vascular health. They have a lot of potassium, which is really important. So, human beings, we used to take in about 10 times as much potassium as sodium in our diets. Now it's just the opposite. Yeah. We have these processed diets. So we take in about 10 times as much sodium as potassium, and this wreaks havoc on our blood vessels. What it does is it causes calcification of those arteries in the clitoris. And so that potassium in the leafy greens, what it does is it softens that delicate inner lining of blood vessels to deliver more blood flow. And one of the most amazing things about leafy greens is that it's the only food shown in research to actually reduce some of that plaque accumulation.
Wow. So
in arteries.
Be specific, because I know some people are like, leafy greens means kale, which a lot of people don't love. What are the foods that fit into that category?
Oh, any kind of leaves that you like that are green. So if you like spinach, great. Spinach is a superstar. It's one of the ones that's been studied a lot, but you don't have to eat spinach if you don't like it. You can eat romaine. You can eat green leaf. You can eat kale, yeah, if you like it. If you don't like eating kale raw, which not too many of us like raw kale, you can, bake it in the oven and make kale chips, sprinkle.
Those are yummy.
Yeah, they're delicious. Any of the leafy greens, even parsley, cilantro, all of those things offer benefit to the vascular system.
I love this. I was just the other night watching old episodes of Seinfeld, and I was joking with my friends about that was the origination. Remember? I don't know if you're old enough to have watched that, but
I'm 45. I'm old enough.
Okay. So you know how she used to talk about the big salad? Do you remember? Yeah. Elaine would always talk about the big salad. Like it was like, that was back in the 80s where people were like, what? You're eating a salad? But I think about that. And I had a cooking teacher a couple of years ago who really taught me how you can add in so many of these leafy greens to a salad that makes it have more nutritional value. Like literally getting fresh parsley and just chopping it up and like always throwing it into your salad. Or experimenting with lots of different kinds of greens and throwing it into your salad. And getting that variety rather than just having romaine or, try a little butter, try a little Bib. And I think it makes that idea of like a salad is a diet food, right? It kind of makes it more lively and interesting. So I think that the idea of the big salad, not as a diet food, but as a really yummy way to get all of these sort of nutrients is something that we should think about and change our mindset that a salad means I'm on a diet or I'm trying to lose weight.
Yeah, I mean, well, Elaine was onto something because it's true. That's actually one of the first things I will recommend. If I have a patient who maybe they don't want to transform their entire, lifestyle and dietary habits, I say, if you want to start with something that's going to make a huge impact, start with your lunch. Have a big leafy green salad. You don't have to stop at that. Have a baked potato with it or a baked yam because those have a really good amount of minerals, including that potassium that we talked about. So you have a big salad and a baked potato or a baked yam or some squash, and you're getting a huge portion of the minerals and vitamins that are great for sex in that one single meal.
I love it. A sex salad. We're going to change it. Instead of the big salad, we're going to call it a sex salad. I went to Whole Foods the other day, and I did not know that butternut squash could be like shaped in like the zoodles, like zucchini is all the rage.
Right.
And I bought some squash zoodles and I sauteed them and I threw them into my sex salad that I'm going to start calling it now. And it was so delicious. And now I know it was delicious and nutritious. I think there's so many ways. I think the salad needs to be rebranded. And so you, Christine, are now going to be the queen of the sexy salad.
Well, if you look at other primates, like, human beings, we're running around saying, what should we eat? What should we eat? And we ask other people, other animals, they know what to eat already. They have an instinct. We kind of lost our instinct.
I love it. And for all of you ladies who are saying you're too busy to make the sexy salad, during COVID, I got really excited about refrigerator storage items, and I found these like little containers and you put these little things in there and you keep your food fresh, because I used to just put my leafy greens in the fridge in like the wrap that they came in from the market, and I learned that was killing it slowly, actually quickly, and so I transformed the inside of my refrigerator. And I do all this prep, on the weekend. I just wash all the veggies and I throw them in this crispy kind of thing. And then I can just make my sexy salad during the day so easily. So I'm a big fan of kitchen refrigerator organization to keep your leafy foods fresh and last a long time.
Well, what I do is I go to the market. Okay, I go to the public market. I get the freshest, most beautiful leaves I can find. I bring them home. I put them in the refrigerator, and then a week later I throw them out because they're old and rotten, and I haven't made my salad with them, unfortunately. So what I do is I usually go to, we have Wegmans here in the Northeast, and they have, salad. They have organic salads that you can make to order. So I buy like 3 of them and stick them in my fridge because I've so many times just let my salad greens go
die.
To waste.
Yeah. It's so sad. They're just, and you can't bring them back.
Right.
That's so funny. Okay, so we've talked about the sexy salad. And when you talk about the sexual health and you think about what foods then besides that leafy green, like is there some other food that we can incorporate that might be a snack or something that we can have, like even maybe before we're going out on a date? And the reason I ask you this is one time I interviewed someone and she was like, her biggest tip was don't go on a first meet and greet kind of like coffee date or a drinks date, because if you don't eat something first, you won't have anything in your stomach, number one, if you have a drink or coffee or whatever. And then what if it goes really well and it goes really long, but it's like too soon to turn it into a dinner date, and then you start to get hungry and grumpy. So you need to, she said, eat like edamame before you go on a date, something that was filling. And I'm like, that's like so random and maybe challenging for people. So do you have any ideas for like before a date, any kind of foods?
Yeah, actually, I have a whole date night sex menu in my book. And the truth is that there's tons of research showing that there are short-term benefits to the food that we eat, or the opposite. So certain foods actually will tank your testosterone. So you eat a greasy, fatty meal, according to research, it's going to dump your testosterone. That's not good for libido, for male or female. Same thing with a big sugary meal, which, all that refined sugar disrupts hormones in the long term, but it actually tanks your testosterone in the short run too, which is definitely not what you want for like a pre-date menu. But if you're going out on a date and you don't know if it's leading to sex, you want to be in a good mood and you want to feel confident, you want to feel comfortable. And one of the best ways to do that is actually by having a high vitamin C and potassium meal. But vitamin C rapidly improves mood according to research. And so that just helps ease any of that social anxiety that we have, and it makes us feel more comfortable on the date. If it is leading to sex, all the better, because you're going to be in a better mood. But there's other foods that actually have been shown in research to have a short-term effect on your blood vessels and actually bring more blood flow. So while a salty meal is going to constrict blood vessels even within 30 minutes of eating them, which is not good for blood flow.
Yeah.
In a fatty meal of the same, an omega-3 fatty meal actually, so like something like wild salmon or walnuts for those who are plant-based, will actually make blood vessels more elastic, and actually you'll have better arterial function in the short term within that 2-hour window after eating them. Same thing with polyphenols, which is an antioxidant found in things like berries and apples and things like that. And again, potassium is going to dilate your blood vessels as well in the short term. So your leafy greens will do that. There was one study. I mean, we're not, yes, it's subtle. It's not going to be like a Viagra pill or something like that, but it is significant. There was one study, for example, that fed participants one single serving of spinach. Then they measured their salivary nitric oxide content. And nitric oxide is what dilates our blood vessels. It's the same mechanism as Viagra. The salivary nitric oxide levels were 8 times that of baseline within a couple hours of eating one serving of spinach.
Damn.
So it is significant. Yeah, it is significant.
That's amazing. I just made this recipe the other day where I do eat meat, but I had this turkey burger, and I got this recipe where you put spinach in the ground turkey with a little bit of feta. And I was like, this is so cool because it tasted so yummy. And I was like, I am getting my veg in with my main. And it was delicious. So I like this idea of incorporating these things into different ways so that, again, you're not just going like, oh, God, I have to make sauteed spinach, because That doesn't sound sometimes very
Right.
fun. What about, I'm curious, you mentioned walnuts. What about, are there any seeds, like sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds or any kinds of sesame seeds that are part of this, I'm thinking like foods that help you grow, like your blood vessels increase and things like that?
Well, walnuts and chia seeds will be one of the ones for the short-term benefit, but nuts and seeds in general are good for sex, and there are some studies to support that. And the reason is they have their fat profile is they have more of the polyunsaturated fatty acids and things like that, but they also have a lot of minerals. So things like zinc, most of us don't get enough zinc. And it's crucial for the production of testosterone in our bodies, and it's crucial for hormonal balance. Zinc is one of the most important minerals for sexual health and pleasure. And according to one study I saw, it was like 50% of Americans don't get enough. Another study said 98% of Americans don't get enough. So you really have to make an effort to eat it. And that's probably why oysters get their reputation as an aphrodisiac, because if you eat one oyster, it has 50% of your RDA of zinc.
That's amazing. All these foods you're listing are all these nutrients. I take a shit ton of supplements, and I was like, okay, I've got my vitamin C, I've got my omega, but I don't do zinc. I bet I'm not getting enough because I definitely don't eat oysters every day.
Well, eat some nuts, eat your leafy greens. If you're getting that salad every day and you're getting some nuts, then that'll go a long way towards that.
Okay, because I always throw in my sexy salad some sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds because I like the little crunch in my salad. Yeah,
the pumpkin seeds are so good for mood too. They have the precursor to serotonin. But interestingly though, serotonin is like anti-libido, whereas dopamine is like pro-libido. As far as research goes. But that doesn't mean that sunflower seeds are going to sabotage your sex life.
Okay, good. Otherwise, my husband will hide them from me. I love that. And I'm really curious, too, about, because I have a lot of ladies that come to me, and I think there's a very sometimes big correlation between food and body image and dating and intimacy, right? Because if you're sort of hiding your inner self in a bigger container, it's just an excuse that people use where I'm not lovable because I'm not this certain size. And I think that they don't sometimes think about a different mindset that can help them gravitate towards health and balanced hormones and more intimacy and physical connection and creating emotional connection. What do you say to those clients that come in that might be overweight or even underweight, like if they're over exercising or starving themselves, right? All these things that people do. How do you, what are some tips or what are some things that you say to people that can start to orient the way they're thinking in a more healthy way?
Well, treating your body kindly with food can lead to better sex, whether you're thin, whether you're obese, no matter what size you're at. And what I have learned through lots of experience and through interaction with my patients in talking to many, 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 many men is that size truly is not a barrier to having great sex or to getting love. What is a barrier is us not loving ourselves. Mm-hmm. And guys care way less about our weight than we do. And, being sexual and being comfortable with yourself, that can be, that will facilitate great sex. And when we don't feel comfortable in our own skin, that's what doesn't. You can be healthy at different weights as well.
Yeah.
You can have good blood flow. I mean, being thin does not mean being sexually fit. They're not synonymous. Sexual fitness means, those things we were talking about. It means strong nerve conduction. It means blood flow. It means hormonal balance. And so treating your body kindly with the foods you eat will help you feel better, and it will help you have better sex no matter what. But, I had a conversation with one patient, for example, she was about as close to fitting the American standard of beauty that you could get, thin, long hair, beautiful, looked like a model. And, she talked about dating, and she said, well, I can't date like this. I just have to lose 5 pounds. Then I can start dating, and it just goes to show you it's not about what you actually look like. It's about how you feel about yourself.
Yes. I mean, this is so, so true. And that, I just hope everyone rewinds and listens to what Christine just said, because yes, you want to have a physically healthy self container, and also that whatever size you are, it doesn't inhibit you or prevent you from having good sexual health, especially if you start to make some of these changes. They're not mutually exclusive from each other. I think that's so, so huge. So I want to talk about Chinese medicine a minute. When I was single, one of my best friends was studying to become get her a master's in acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And I swear to God, she studied for those tests. I think it's probably harder than the bar. I don't know. I've never done either, but I just was and she was taking them and taking them again. And she was like, oh my God, everyone's just taking these exams. So I know this is a very highly skilled, very well-trained healing modality. And so I'd love for you to just share about how acupuncture and how Chinese medicine can help us improve our sexual health, create hormonal balance, more peace, joy, less cortisol, adrenaline, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, so in Chinese medicine, we see this hormonal balance as a balance of yin and yang within the body. So yin is the feminine essence. It's the cool, dark, it's the substance of the body. It's the blood. It's our body fluids. And the yang is the male, hot, scorching energy. It's nerve conduction. It's the heart beating. It's all of those masculine kind of functions within the body. It's testosterone. So we balance this. In Chinese views on great sex is that when we have strong flow of qi and blood, we have good sex. When we have abundant kidney essence, we have good sex. And the essence of life is believed to be housed in the kidneys. And the embodiment of that essence is in menses for women, and it's in ejaculate for males. And so we have to, nourish the fundamental, the foundation of this essence. Things that can interfere with this essence are things like emotional stress, strong emotions and stress of life, as well as the cloying, rich foods that we eat. So when we block the qi, we won't have good sexual function. When we have abundant, strong, free flow of qi, we will have good sexual function. And, as far as Chinese dietary therapy and what supports sexual health, we view a good diet as a balance of the 5 flavors. So every meal should have a little bit of salty, a little bit of sweet, a little bit of acrid, a little bit of sour, a little bit of bitter. What we do in our culture with our very heavily processed diets is we favor the sweet flavor. We favor the salty flavor, and we neglect things like the bitter flavor, which is our leafy greens, and we neglect things like the sour flavor, which is our fruits. And so that what that does is it throws yin and yang out of balance. It throws our hormones out of balance, and we have the research to support that as well. We know that when you have leptin resistance and insulin resistance, which is caused by all of these refined sugars, we know that will sabotage your other hormones, such as your sex hormones, for example.
That is so, I think this is so fascinating because we hear these words sort of thrown around, just generally out of context probably. And we're like, what does that mean? And so what I love about this is that there are so many different ways to do this. When you started talking, I was like, you made me want a salad with walnuts and some pear or strawberry, like balsamic vinegar. Is that the acrid? I don't know. I was just thinking how flavorful food and meals can be when you're having this holistic approach.
Well, I tried that with my soup and it was delicious. Acrid or something like ginger, something like garlic. Those are considered to be acrid. But I realized that my soup flavor doesn't taste right. And when I consider those 5 flavors, I'm like, oh, it just needs a little sour. So I squeeze some lemon in it or lime, and I'm like, oh, there we go. That it got it. I do that in my soup, and it tastes good when I have all those flavors represented, for example.
So what's something that someone can start to do like right away if they're having menopausal symptoms, if they feel like their libido is tanking? Like, what is one tip that you have for people?
Well, I think that maybe try going a couple of weeks without processed sugars and processed foods and see how you feel after that. Notice all of the changes. When you dump your sugars, you're going to notice that you feel better because your blood sugars are going to be more balanced, which means your insulin is going to be more your insulin, and your leptin and ghrelin are going to be more balanced, and therefore your sex hormones are going to be more balanced. That's a big one. We go to the coffee shop. I go to the coffee shop, and I'm so tempted to get so many of those baked goods.
Yeah,
but,
muffin. I want a muffin.
Yes. Yes. So, just all those refined sugars, sabotage our sex hormones. And then, like we talked about, change one thing. If you want to make a really powerful change in one meal, choose lunch. Get that leafy green salad in. You know what? And you don't have to have this austere, flavorless diet in order to be eating well. You really don't. Say every day when I go to work, I'm going to pack a delicious, big, huge leafy green salad, and I'm going to pack a baked potato or a baked yam, and that's what I'm going to have every day when I go to work. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy yourself when you go out with your friends, or that you have to, bring a salad to the family party or something. Nobody wants to do that. You just make good choices, and you actually end up enjoying food even more because the rule is that you treat yourself kindly, and then you also have more enjoyment when you do, go out and socialize and that sort of thing. So just getting rid of the processed foods is a big one, and having your salad for lunch.
I love that. And I have to ask you, in your book, Diet for Great Sex, do you have recipes? I'm looking at the cover and I'm like, girl, there are some sexual references in that fruit. You gotta get this book just so you can see the sexy carrot and the very sexy kiwi.
Yeah, there's lots of recipes in there. I didn't include a lot of meat recipes, not because it's not important. I mean, actually, meat is one of the best, most bioavailable sources of zinc. So I'm not, I don't crap on meat at all. But I only have, I think, one meat recipe in there because we already have a lot of that stuff. I have more like, I have some fish recipes, but I also have some salad dressing recipes. So if you want to make your salads taste really good, if you want to start adopting that new lunch, there's like 2 or 3 really delicious herb-based, there's an herb-based ranch and there's an herb-based vinaigrette in there, for example, where you just chop up fresh herbs and it makes your salads taste really nice. But then I've got like a Sunday sauce. There's lots of recipes in there. One of them is I have several recipes for incorporating mushrooms into our diets.
Ooh, tell me about mushrooms.
Oh my goodness. I could talk at length about mushrooms. They're amazing. Again, just like leafy greens, mushrooms benefit that entire trifecta of great sex. There's a ton of research on the effect that mushrooms have on nerve conduction and how they speed nerve conduction. They're antioxidants. They're loaded with antioxidants, so they really protect those nerves from oxidative stress. And they also, even some things like lion's mane are mushrooms that have been particularly studied with how beneficial they are to nerves and having the ability to actually improve nerve growth. Like when you have nerve damage, it actually helps you grow nerves back, if you will. And so, but the coolest thing about mushrooms is this: the way that they affect our body and benefit our cardiovascular system, our nervous system, our hormonal system is in their effect on our microbiome. In research, there's a lot of research now to support this, that they actually improve that balance of microbes in the digestive tract, which affects all areas of health. And certain mushrooms, different mushrooms affect different microbes within our digestive tract, but even plain white button mushrooms were shown to improve the biodiversity of these microbes in our digestive tract. And lest you think that that's not that important, I will share with you a study, for example, that something nobody would think about being related to these microbes, cardiovascular health. So they had one study where there was a group of rats who were at high risk for cardiovascular disease, another group of rats that had normal risk. They transplanted the feces from the high risk group to the normal risk group, and they too developed high risk of cardiovascular disease. Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing. I just, my jaw dropped. I was like, no, wow. And then I was going to say, this shit is for real. No pun intended. Oh my God. This is amazing. So, look, I could talk to you for hours. I'm definitely just such a fan of all of this. And I just, I talk about this a lot on the show because it's been almost 2 years, but I had this huge ski accident. I almost was paralyzed, bed rest for like 2 months, blah, blah, blah. But what I really learned as a result of that is like how our body is really just this machine that we could totally take for granted. And that when one part is off, it really is systemic and everything gets off. Right. Yeah. And I really learned that like in the trenches. And what I love about what you're talking about is how this stuff, it's not just like, it's really about the fact that we have this beautiful, amazing, most of our listeners are women, like feminine container, right? And we have this beautiful gift of like, I watch reality TV and I was watching Bachelor in Paradise, and this woman calls the whole vaginal area like your China pot, right? It's like very precious. And what you are sharing here in this show today is just like that there's so many ways that we can love on ourselves, right? And create more pleasure and joy by honoring that. And by the way, it can taste really good and be pleasurable and enjoyable in the process, not just in the destination. So I really think you're brilliant, and I love the work you're doing. So I just really appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks so much for inviting me. I've really had so much fun.
Well, I'm going to get that book. Ladies, whatever you do, go find yourself a sexy carrot. Whatever you do with it, do it with some damn dignity. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes, and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Battista, and let's talk soon.